True strength really isn't about this masculine pursuit of something. It's really a balancing. The true wisdom is a balancing between the masculine and the feminine, because we need some context of the Earth's history really to see that the masculine energy has dominated for a long time. Now, this doesn't belong to a male, this doesn't belong to a body, this doesn't belong to anyone. We all have these two energies within us, which are really comprised of the one energy, consciousness and energy. This is the way you came to discover the split between the two in order to have a conscious experience. But before that, there was actually the feminine as the dominating energy, and in those times, the feminine energy oppressed the male through abilities and ways in this way. But we don't need to go into blame, we just need to know that we're coming out of a period of pure masculinity. Now, you can just look at the architecture, you can look at anything in the world, it's all very masculine. The ways that the financial markets were run, the ways that jobs were set up, the way that jobs were achieved, what success meant. You look at what success means, it's to do with a lot of the time sport, for example, very masculine dominated realms. But can you see now, and especially in this last century, what is the most influential realm within this, not so much realm, what's the most influential topic, you could say? Really, it's the creative world. What some of the most influence over this world, some of the most rising up into power is really in the film industry and music, in arts, creativity, where this feminine energy started to be given the space. And so now the new superpower, if you could say, or the new powerless force, which is really a greater force than any power in the world, is truly this new feminine energy, which is not new, but it's new in its balancing. We've never seen a mastery of this in such way, with the masculine being integrated and the feminine being integrated. Those with the ability and the willingness to be sensual, to be intimate, to be creative, to trust their intuition, to trust their sexuality, to be intimate with themselves, to be sexual with themselves, to see that. Even looking at religion, I mean, look how religion has suppressed sexuality. And do you know why they've suppressed sexuality? Because they know a population that's in touch with this intimate part of themselves has a creative potential to create a life of whatever they want, which cannot be touched by religion, cannot be touched by basically a masculine dominance of just suppression. But this is nothing to do with blame. In fact, we needed this to know what it felt like to live in such a masculine world that was based on outward pursuits. But Adam and Isis, we can call these two energies, Isis being the feminine energy and Adam being the masculine energy. Isis wants to be received, right? The feminine wants to be received, to be loved, to be intimate, to be sensual, to be outside of time, focus, pursuit, all of these things that allow for creativity in the masculinity. We're now seeing come online this more sensual energy that lie dormant within every being. And in some beings, it's the dominant force, very feminine, very intimate, very sensual, but there isn't that balancing with the masculine of discernment and wisdom. Now, in the other way you see, especially in a lot of males, is this kind of hardness. It's maybe more of an emptiness, it's not as soft, and it has focus a lot of the time. It has intellectual understanding, but there isn't this creativity of sensuality, of allowing and releasing and letting go. So what we're going to be coming to see in the next century is basically those that aren't willing to allow the masculine shell to really crack, to allow new life to be birthed through it, is going to see that ultimately they're going to be the ones that come to terms with the fact that either you let go or you get dragged. So those that start to really release and see that really their sensuality and their intimacy and their sensitivity that was once seen to be a drawback to themselves, a disadvantage to themselves, is actually one of their greatest assets, because they've been waiting for this time in order for it to be safe to truly open up in a way that is allowing this feminine energy to come through. I mean, you see how it was in the centuries before when this feminine energy tried to rise up and just to organically come through. You were either called a witch, you were called this, you were called that, you weren't allowed to vote, this and this. It's nothing to do with the body, this is to do with energies, the Adam energy being afraid of the Isis energy, and the Isis energy wanting to come through, but waiting until now for it to be the perfect fertility, the perfect space in the soil for this plant to grow. Because within every egg is something that's trying to burst through it. As Thoth said, a shell cracked from the inside births new life. A shell cracked from the outside destroys it. So we're now seeing these new worlds emerging because masculine energy and masculine and feminine energy come together will always create new life. And so now we're seeing those that are able to really, I would really recommend the sexual energy school, which I'll speak about soon, because this is where the split really resides. It really resides as a virus when these two energies within you are kept apart. Because when these two energies aren't allowed to meet and to really come together in the way that they want to, you'll feel this discomfort within you because there's a divisive energy within, there's a division that feels like within, and you'll project that onto the screen, either in someone to come and fix this, anyone to come and fix this, a job, a money, a career, but really usually it's a relationship as some kind of safety to be found there, because it does feel very unsafe to have this division within you. It usually resides in the lower three kind of chakra points. It's a feeling of something not being quite right. You don't want these two to come together because the mind believes if the male and female energy is allowed to come together, there'll be this union, and it knows it'll be the end of the mind's dominance over your life. You are a slave to this master up here until the union comes online, really reveals itself as a sovereign being, which has equal parts male and female, doesn't need for an either masculine or feminine energy to complete it. The mind knows this is on its last legs, and so it'll do everything it can to stop you allowing these energies to come together, to unionize. And that's when you start to realize you're a sovereign being outside the collective fog of this virus. But you could look in the industries of advertising, commercials, everything is about keeping this apart. They try and make girls over here, boys over there, make sure it's and also a battle between the two sexes. This is why certain political agendas are to keep this male versus female, because it allows for a population that are still divided within themselves. So the last thing that a government that wants power over their population wants you to do is to realize that you're a sovereign being that can inhabit both energies in a creative way. So what's very dangerous to this power structure, which is just a movement of energy of control, is people within that structure realizing that they can start to become intimate and balanced within themselves, and this union, there is I wouldn't call it an event, but it's definitely something that starts to descend upon you like a mist descending, starts to basically come into this self-love, which gives the two energies a chance to really have sex within yourself. This is true sex always, even when you're in the realm of another person, you're having sex with another person. Truly, you're only really having sex with yourself, and the symbol of another body is just another way that this is expressed. But we're going to start seeing in the new earth, you could say, there's so much more independency, there's so much more sex with self. Your new sexuality is not about chase, because this is like a completion within sex. Truly, sex is always with yourself, and this can be celebrated with someone else who's also in their wholeness. Now, if you've ever tried to have sex with someone or you try to have a romantic relationship with someone that it feels as though you're in your sovereignty, but they're still feeding on something, maybe they're seeing you as completing them, it's going to feel like a misbalanced energy. There isn't coming from the heart, it isn't coming from sensuality, intimacy, it's really coming from old energy of divisiveness. It's as if I'm divided within and you're divided within, and then we're going to come together and have sex. That's really what this whole a lot of the arts even is not really from new energy. It's sometimes to do with keeping the masculine over here and the feminine over here, and the feminine needing something from the masculine, or the masculine going off pursuing it. It's quite wounded. But in this new energy, we start to see that we are sovereign in our sexuality. It's really always, we're always tasting ourselves, we're always being sensual with ourselves, and this can be done until moment to moment you're in this kind of just pure sex with conscious experiencing. Because that's all that conscious experiencing is the masculine awareness with the feminine, whatever this kind of thickness feels to be, this fullness that brings to life time, space, come out of this creation. So this is what is starting to come online, is that those, basically what I want to come back to, that once saw themselves as a very sensitive, intimate, sensual being, that felt they needed to hide this. Is what come back with the persecution wounds. You start to see, as soon as you slow down and allow this to come through, this something's always trying to push through you, whether it's a creativity, whether it's an intimacy, whether it's a sensuality, a softness. Especially those in both male and female, when they go out into the workplace, for example, into the world, they both feel like they have to put on a masculine front a lot of the time in order to even survive in certain relationships as well, and in certain family situations, in certain, they don't want to see weak in the workplace. Now here I'm very lucky, I chose a path that was in the film industry, where it's still, especially in directing jobs, in directing roles, you're the boss on set, and so you've got to put on this, well, the tendency, the temptation is to put on this masculine front. But truly recently there's been this allowing of leading through femininity, leading through putting people at ease. The actors, I was dealing with footballers the other day. I can't say the football team because it was an NDA I had to sign, but this was the most masculine set I'd ever been on. Football players in England, top of the game, just driven. And here I was, this very feminine film director, just putting people at ease with a kind of softness, right? That felt very unnatural. I could feel the energies coming in to take on this masculine shell, to prove strength. I could see with honesty how I was still falling into those traps. And then you take yourself off, you unwind the fingers from the need to be a certain depiction of what strength is, and you start to see that when you're in your femininity and you're in your balance, really, this is beyond the two. It's almost like a sovereignty. This allows others the same invitation to step into their sovereignty, because they see that you're safe in doing it. Especially if I'm the director on a set and I'm showing this trust in that balancing, then others around that may not be trusting themselves then say, well, if this person is in that softness and in that alignment with themselves, then I can as well. And this grows like a fire, really, a wildfire around. So even recently I've seen, like, growing out my hair, for example, was this strange process of feeling more and more feminine, but then as the hair grew, it was like a beautiful metaphor to say, like, as the hair grew, I got more and more comfortable with not being perceived as what was to be shown as really, as I was growing up, as a masculine male, some kind of like short, like Top Gun, like army, military style stuff. Even going to the gym recently, the whole focus is swift from building muscle to really yoga and just breathing, grounding the energies, sometimes aerobics, spending more time in like self-care, the sauna, things like this. It sounds really strange, but almost giving yourself permission to take care of yourself in a loving way is a sign of coming into terms with this true balance, this true alignment that doesn't need to pursue this outward approach, because Adam, the masculine energy, is an outward looking and the feminine energy is inward looking. And when you find in the middle, there's this beautiful balance between outward, knowing that you're creating your constant reality, no matter where you look, you're always like a machine gun that was always firing. You're always creating wherever you go. This is just the nature of who you are, empty creation. But the feminine is always waiting to be received, it's always waiting to be loved. And then it knows it can love itself. This is what's so beautiful. The feminine starts to realize, and we see this phenomenon, that it loves itself. And the masculine then feels as though its job is out of, it's useless now because the feminine loves itself. But truly the feminine always needed to know it could love itself for then the masculine to come in and for them to be together as a celebration of the one energy that they are. It couldn't be a case of the feminine always needing the masculine or the masculine always needed to pursue. Each needed to find their sovereignty within themselves without an external image to complete them. This is so important. This is what we're slowly starting to see. This is where the true power resides. Not in the images completing you, but you deciding just prior to all experience that you can see that you're completed within the energies allowing themselves to basically alchemize. But nothing really comes together, like, and alchemizes together. It's really, pretend two things are never disjointed at the bottom, and you've got this kind of thing coming up here. I know it sounds really strange. You're actually tracing both masculine energy, feminine energy back into its source where it's never been disconnected. Like a tree trunk, there's a beautiful tree down the road that I always go to, because up, if you look right up where the creation has gone, it looks like all these different branches, but it's an amazing phenomenon where the two tree trunks come together into one tree trunk, the source, God, energy, whatever, where then there was a decision to be made for Adam and Isis to go off and explore. And then they kind of almost come together at the top as well. But if you really think that you can only see the branches, you think that they have to complete each other by coming together in the world. But actually you trace back and each being sees that they're really one. And this is the true sense of an untouchable freedom, because you see it was never separated. It was just you just traced the branches up and it looked like it was separate. So now we're seeing the last point is what I really want to make and just basically re-emphasize, is that it's going to feel very unnatural for you to come into this balance within, where there's this masculinity and also this femininity, and you can almost intend for it to alchemize, intend for them to come together within you. Almost feels like, usually for me, it's like around the stomach. It feels very unnatural because you know that it's the end of the mind in a way, because when the more power goes to this, the mind wants them to be disconnected in order for it to keep giving you things to pursue and for the femininity to feel abandoned. Because the deepest fear within the masculine is that it's going to be rejected by the feminine, and the deepest fear within femininity is that it's going to be abandoned by the masculine. So you have this weird standoff. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen gone to like a childhood party where all the boys are on one side and the girls are on the other side. It's just a complete metaphor for how this really manifests within physicality. So within yourself as well, you can see, well, where do I not want to be received by the feminine? Where am I kind of holding off my softness, my to be received? Because in the masculinity, you think you're going to be rejected by this feminine energy. So first of all, let's just start. We're going to end this video with just this contemplation, because you can do it on both sides of masculinity and femininity, no matter what gender you are, because we contain both energies. Let's start with someone that feels as though they are repressing certain femininities and they have to put on a hard shell. Usually you'll see, well, always actually, really, because this is just the archetype, really. To different layers, you'll see how much you relate to this. How much of it is this masculinity feeling as though it's going to be rejected by this energy, either a parent, a femininity parent, or a female, or whatever it is. They feel as though they have to accumulate wealth in order to be good enough for this person. They have to accumulate good looks. They have to accumulate, become something in order to then find the feminine to, like, look, this is what I am, this is what I got, please accept me. This is usually what you see in the wounded masculine. You see it in a lot of certain podcasts, you see it in a lot of alpha male stuff, sports. This is why a lot of sportsmen are very mentally unbalanced, because they're always pursuing more in order to be good enough. You trace back any sportsman, and they usually anyone that's gone to excessive heights, they usually have a lot of trauma within their childhood, because they're trying to compensate and finally become good enough to look up for this. And sometimes this is coming from a father, sometimes it's coming from a mother, or sometimes it's coming from a girlfriend cheating on this person, or a boyfriend cheating on this person, and they're never feeling good enough in order to compensate. So first of all, just say, can I allow myself to be received in my fullness, in my nakedness, without having to be anyone else? Just really give yourself permission to be received. Validate yourself before you give the judgment of who you are to external image. See that your sovereignty comes as a decision just prior to the judgments that anything on the screen can make about you. And this is a power, really a powerlessness in the world, but a full sovereignty of your power within yourself that can't be touched, because it's your decision who you are and how you validate yourself. So now in the feminine energy, there's this fear of abandonment from the masculine. So we've got to see, where are we outsourcing our strength, but also our security? Do we feel like we have to be validated by and felt by an external force, or can we again really what the feminine energy is learning to do is to love itself, to fall in love back with itself. It's sensuality's intimacy, where once it was persecuted by this masculine energy, whether it's the churches, whether it's being burnt at the stake as a witch, whether it's being told that strength has to be pursue, destroy, overcome all your competitors, whatever industry you're in, whatever relationship you're in, whether you're in school, education. The education system is nothing about creativity. You're not judged and marked based on your creativity and your intuition. Imagine an education system that was based on you passed, but if you were just yourself and in your unique expression of who you are, whatever you were producing as your work was beneficial, not for a masculine world that needed numbers and more wealth and needed you as basically a figurine that would make this other wealthier white guy that sits in a suit where no one's ever seen more money. That is the success criteria of basic education, a lot of education anyway. But imagine an education system that's based on a balance between masculine and feminine energy, where the success is not about productivity, it's really about that beyond form. It's about non-linearity. It's about how much you allow yourself to be creative. It's not about creating money, it's about creating beauty, the sensual experience, the love. That is a world that is on its way. And before that, when it was just the feminine energy dominating, it was too balanced the other way. There was no focus, there was all magic, it was all spells, it was all very strange. It went too far the other way. But now we're in this perfect golden age. We're coming out of Pisces, we're coming into the Aquarian age of transformation, and we have another hit at it on this earth to go in this balanced way. So that's a lot said today, just on feminine energy. I think I want to start courses around a bit more of this kind of sexual energy school. I would really recommend, so I'm going to say this now, I really recommend on the Crimson Circle. So this is a organization based in Colorado in America. They have the most amazing courses. I've bought quite a few of them now. I did them throughout the years, mainly actually last year. Adamus St. Germain is channeled there. Amazing teacher being channeled through Jeffrey Hoppe and Linda Hoppe. Well, Linda Hoppe assists. The Crimson Circle have a course, I think it's twice a year. I did it last year. It's called Sexual Energy School. Okay, it's called Sexual Energy School. It's an investment, but it will come and find you when you are ready for it, and also when you want it, because not many people actually want to release this virus, this divisive energy within them. They really are enjoying it being kept apart, so they can keep chasing it while they don't want to see that their sovereignty is really a decision within. So it's twice a year. I think the next one is around spring, summertime this year. There's also sensuality clinics in Crimson Circle. There's a lot of stuff which is to do with allowing, releasing, receiving. I'd really recommend it. Okay, so yeah, one thing I'd like to say as well, if you're someone that has repressed their gifts, their sensuality, their knowings of intelligences beyond this world, but you've tried to fit into a masculine world, just know that your time is coming, because this next period is all about you, your gifts, that doesn't need to fit a world that was never meant for you anyway. This world of productivity, pressure, getting somewhere, right? They're not getting anywhere. They're not getting anywhere that you can with your sensuality and your intelligence of that beyond this world. That's invaluable to them and to you, really. You're the only one that's benefiting from this. So trust that more than you trust a world that you're not supposed to be fitting into anyway. You're not supposed to fit into a world that isn't meant for you. This world of linearity, black and white, and chasing was never going to work. And you can show the world what truly does work, which is love of self, love of that beyond accumulation, right? You've got everything you need already right here. You just got to trust it. All right, I'm going to go now. I love you.